play safe, watch safe. You know, the safety mechanics are for you guys too. Always do the right thing for you. Thank you very much. Now on to the thing we just warned you about.
You're in the desert outside of Las Vegas, Clara, when the drugs began to wear off. It's bright. It's hot. This is not a car that we would consider adequately air-conditioned, although the forced air conditioning is doing a lot, but it is not 72 in here. The radio is playing probably Buddy Holly at this point. Slightly tinny in that distinct radio sound of the era. And you can feel what small fragments of good mood you have leaking out of your body. When you sober up, Clara, what's the sensory part component of that?
Everything is too sharp. The world is, especially being outside, or I mean in a car, but in the bright desert sun, like the morphine is gently numbing. It just soothes everything. It helps with the pain. It helps with the brightness. It helps with the sound. And now everything is just too present. Like the music is grating on her skin and the sun is very bright, even with sunglasses on. And the car is stifling and she's vaguely nauseous and kind of turns her head and goes to roll that window down a little bit more just to get a little fresher air.
And
that something to drink.
Matthew, are you sitting up front or in back next to David, or
he's
back
usually,
there?
He's almost always up front. So I would say that he's in the passenger side seat.
Do you think
also he had to drink a lot when the doctor came, so I'm pretty sure that he is not wanting to be in the back of the car right now.
Yeah, probably. Let's say that so if we recall, Clara has demanded a Caligulan picnic lunch for this 2-hour trip because we had to lay in victuals for whatever it was, 114 miles. So Matthew, there's probably there's no bottles of water. There's nothing useful to give Clara to drink in the car. Are you gonna try to hand her a glass of something, or is she just going to suffer?
I think that it's going to be in between the two because he's still a little bit pissed off.
Fair.
But he's not going to have her suffer. And he is still kind of in the land of denial about any kind of certain revelations. So he will say, I think that you got wine in the bags for the picnic. Crack open the bottle.
Okay. So in fantastic form, so now driving down, camera on the right side of the vehicle, following along, we now have the shoulders of Matthew Van Horst working as he attempts to uncork a bottle of wine on
Absolutely.
on the most uncomfortably straight and flat road that you Western Pennsylvania raised people have ever seen. The desert out here does feel a lot like a movie set. Western Pennsylvania, where the Van Horsts are from, is a land of hills and valleys and of interrupted lines of sight. There is a reason why Pittsburgh is called the city with the only front door, because you see it all at once as you go around a mountain. And so this flat, straight road, how do you feel about it, Matthew? You're out in the flat desert. What's this feel like to you?
It feels like, I would say, two levels of things. Like if Matthew on the surface was to just be like, what is this? He would say, this looks like untapped potential. This looks like something that is begging to be paved over. This looks like something that is begging to be changed and made into something worthwhile. But like, that's the top layer, right?
Uh-huh.
Like that's the initial, sort of like, this is what I'm supposed to be thinking. And I think that underneath that level, the feeling is, ooh, I don't like this. It's like, if there's anything that Matthew doesn't like, it's feeling like he is small.
Oh, yeah.
And there is nothing that makes human beings in general feel more small than like having to kind of confront just the broadness of nature and like how vast it is. And it's that sort of difference of like, you can either be a person who looks at the vastness of space or the ocean or the desert and thinks about how beautiful and wild and full of potential those things are, or you can look at that and think, I can't control that, and that bothers me.
Jesus, we got to break the skyline up. Somebody put some buildings up or something. This is crazy.
Like that sort of thing of just like, this is not controlled enough, and this is not something that I know we can control, and I don't like thinking about that. I don't like feeling small. So like, I feel like he's like, just like that sort of like underlying discomfort that he won't even admit the reason to himself, because to admit that he feels small is inherently losing control in itself.
Mm-hmm. And so he's just ready to respond to all of this in a super healthy way that's going to be really constructive and uplifting. Yeah.
I feel like Matthew is always someone who, like, when he feels like his control is being challenged, is really healthy about it and like really looks deep into himself, as opposed to being super gross.
How good of a role player is Elon? He said that with a straight face. That's how good of a role player he is.
I managed till the end, and I'm very proud of myself for that.
However, Bethany, to you, this air smells like promise.
Mm-hmm.
This is the air of a place where the things that keep your siblings locked down isn't here. This is a place where you could get some work done if you are willing to do it in 36 hours or less.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also there's just like with Matthew, there's a bit too much sky, and there's a bit too much land, and there's a bit too much road, and there's not a good way to get a sense of visual perspective when you're inexperienced. When for 10 years, almost 20 years, by God, your depth of field was a room, or at the very least, the back garden.
Mm-hmm.
This is exponentially larger
Mm-hmm.
than Bethany's standard optical realm, and it, yes, I agree. And it when you try, Bethany, to comprehend the horizon, or when you try to assign scale to things, it starts changing.
Mm-hmm.
It, like, the visual information that you're using to kind of identify where things are in reference to each other refuses to remain static. And it is not the worst you've ever experienced, but it is definitely there, kind of clawing at your perceptions,
Mm-hmm.
making things uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the only thing to look at in the car is your siblings. And, you know, David, who's probably going to need walkies by the time you get there. So
Mm-hmm.
David, for his part, has his dress shirt unbuttoned, a couple of buttons down. He's got one arm up, like grabbing the top of the window frame, driving one-handed with the radio clearly softly playing for his normal radio, because you see his hand go down to the volume dial and then like do the thing where he like instinctually goes to turn it up and then takes his hand away, because he knows that blasting music in the morning when Clara's got her sunglasses on is a good way to have the rest of your day suck.
Mm-hmm.
So but
we
the
have enough
miles,
gas, right? Do we know how much longer it's going to be?
Matthew will look at David.
he looks back at Matthew and gives that kind of like that, you know, like, logistically speaking, we don't have to stop, but if someone tells me to stop, I'm gonna stop. You know, it's a lot of empty road. There's probably gonna be maybe a gas station selling 6-month-old cigarettes.
If it seems like from how like David is reacting that we don't need to stop, Matthew is not going to ask him to stop, because he wants to get through this and away from this and to a place of civilization as quickly as possible.
Super fair. Yeah, David gassed up the car before you guys left. Like, there's no way his ass is driving anywhere without a full tank of gas. Like, you guys send him out to buy a pack of cigarettes and he makes sure the tank's full on his way back.
Yeah. So I think that he'll, if like the sort of look that David gives him is, you know, we're good. He will speak back to Clara as he passes her back the bottle of wine that he opened, because she needs libations. And say, I'm sure that David gassed everything up before we left.
Right. Well, we should stop and eat lunch at some point before we get there. We have all of this food, and this car is getting stifling.
And we should keep an eye out for a good place for a picnic.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, that's easy. Time goes by. It's been probably about 60 minutes of your 3 hour. It's been about 1 hour of your probably total 3 hour journey, when you count for inefficiencies. But David sees something coming, and he kind of points at it and says, well, how about there? And it looks like some kind of it's very simple. Looks like, yeah, it's just like a little rest stop. It's a little pull off, and it looks like there's a bathroom there and a couple of picnic tables.
Is there any shade, man-made shade, fake trees, something?
Yes, it's got. I want to say like it's got that 50s style, and because retro futuristic is the wrong term because that's like Fallout. It's got one of those angled concrete topped with the steel sides that sweep a little bit. It would be a carport or like a solid steel awning, but it does. There's a couple of the tables are underneath that, and so they're shaded at least. Looks like this might have been like a road authority, like a highway authority sort of place or something like that. It doesn't look like it hasn't been well maintained as you pull up and kind of give it a closer look. But then again, this is a dry, empty, soulless, howling cannibal desert, and so it doesn't really snow here. And so a lot of the reasons that all of you would presume that something would get worn down doesn't really happen here. I mean, it's sun bleached. You're going to want to the picnic benches before you sit down, but seems all right.
There are tables and benches at least.
Yes.
What we got?
Yeah. You are not at home.
No.
You are not at home.
The moment the car stops, Claire pushes the door open and stumbles out into the heat and is like, oh, that was a poor choice. It is not better out here. Grabs her wine bottle. I'll get us a table. Kind of stumbles over there, deciding if she's going to be sick or not.
David, who was kind of very in his usual, bodyguard, general Guy Friday sort of thing, was beginning to get food and things and do the stuff the Van Horsts can't be arsed to do ritual. And then he sees Clara kind of staggering over to the table, and he does the German Shepherd head bop, the head perk, and looks at her. And you can see him do a quick piece of some kind of mental math. It's very quick, but it flashes across his eyes. And Matthew and Bethany both in this moment see a semi-metallic flash behind his eyes. Almost as if you could imagine a big... I didn't bring any of my words with me, guys. I'm sorry. A big searchlight, but one of the military kind with the big reflective metal backing. It's not a lighthouse lantern. It's the kind that sits on top of a wall of a base or on top of a tank, and the kind that those big panning blobs of light that search for intruders. It has that look for just a moment, and you are able to, if you choose to, convince yourself that it is simply the back-breakingly bright sun reflecting strangely off his eyes. If you want to turn away from that knowledge, you could. But he puts the thing down that he had in his hands, and he reaches and pulls out his handkerchief, and he says, Miss Clara, let me wipe that down for you before you get over there. And just kind of and bustles over, very calm, very polite, and just kind of wipes down the table, brushes off the seats, and checks it. There's something about it. It's really subtle. It's really smooth. There's not a lot to check on a picnic table. It's not like it's a room that's full of stuff, but he gives it a brief check, kind of looks at one corner of the table and gives it one of the, what the hell is that sort of, but it's not a oh my God. It's oh, okay. I didn't expect that. And then there you go, ma'am.
Thank you. You're very kind. Thank you for stopping. Thank you. And Clara just kind of like flumps down against the picnic table and tries to lounge languorously. She tries to look good, though she's feeling awful.
So
Nope, that was the wrong choice. Even was right. Mhm. Lights up a cigarette and waits for food and drink and other people to be brought. She looks good.
Yeah, David is bringing things over. It's the scale and scope of the food didn't really become apparent until David begins like taking it all out. But this is kind of one of those moments where David is distinct from a St. John because he does not lay everything out in like really nice, like individual, like semi-artisanal layouts. It's barrack style. It's like everything goes right down the middle of the table. Like all of the drinks are in the exact middle of the table and the food is like laid out like a little row of soldiers right down the middle of the table. It's efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone can reach everything, and stuff that can be split in half has been split in half and placed out, and everything is open. It works, but it's that little difference between having a professional servant and a professional bodyguard.
I feel like Matthew would bat an eye at the barrack style sort of thing if it weren't for the flash before, because that's a reminder that even though he does not have the quality of St. John's, let's all put it out as an awkwardness servitude, he brings other things to the table. Like when Matthew saw him kind of take that moment and make sure that Clara was safe and make sure of that, like that's a reminder of what like is lost in the perhaps glamour is made up for in the safety. And in the life that they are currently living right now, you know, glamour is something that they can buy most of the time, but safety is something that they need all of the time. So Matthew will give an sort of like an approving nod to David, like after there's that sort of moment where he prioritizes Clara's safety over getting the food over there. Quite frankly, like as he comes back to the food, like there is definitely sort of like a look of like approval in you were able to prioritize this without being told to prioritize this, and I approve of this.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with like the recent sort of like dynamic pushbacks and stuff like that. Like I think that there's an important aspect of being like you're doing the right thing when you do the right thing.
Yes.
And Matthew will go to sit. Basically, he'll go to make sure that Clara doesn't fall over. But he'll be doing it in such a way that's like sitting beside her, putting an arm around her. We're in the middle of nowhere. No one cares. He can be affectionate in ways that he can't be in public. And he will give her a kiss on the cheek.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. And she turns her head and kisses his cheek back again and kind of leans against him. And that's the first thing that's felt good all day. And the relief is practically palpable because she was still very braced for him being incredibly angry at her.
Yes.
Now she's like, oh, we're making up. It's fine. I got lobster thermadore for you.
I hate that this is like reinforcing, like, if you just are miserable enough, and obviously miserable enough, I will forgive you. But it's true. It's worked before, and it continues to work.
The worst.
The worst. Because he is worried about her, and he is worried that like if he wants deep down, like Matthew always wants Clara to be happy, even when sometimes he is the reason she is unhappy. And so he will thank her, and he will look over to see if Bethany is getting out, because he also wants to make sure that she is okay.
Yes, Bethany will get out of the car. No, Bethany has not spoken to you since you've gotten in the car, either of you. And yes, when she sits down, there is distance. She is sitting on the opposite side of the table and over a little bit.
Oh my.
Are there any of Bethany's favorite foods that Clara asked for?
Oh gosh, yes. Probably, and cooling foods. So probably some sort of very bright, cooling fruit salad. And Bethany's favorite fruit. Like Clara was like, can you please put extra, if it's berries or watermelon or whatever, I want double that in this salad.
Okay.
And there is the good fresh bread that Bethany likes. Like Clara has gotten very good textured foods. Maybe not great for the desert, but she knows all of us are in a mood and that textures are a thing, especially on stomachs. So it's all fresh. Other than lobster thermadore, that was good.
That was a whole fucking choice.
That was a whole choice.
That was.
Choice.
That was a whole ass decision.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew will make up a small plate of fruits and pass them over to Bethany.
Thank you. I could have gotten it myself.
I know. And he will make himself up a plate, and he will make up a plate for Clara. And they will sit down and they will eat as a family.
David started kind of like sitting on the next table over, because he knows better than to sit, amongst the high and mighty. But like, when he hears Bethany say, thank you, but I could have gotten it myself, he literally gets the fuck up and moves to the other end of the other table. Like, he's still well within range for doing anything anyone could expect him to do, but he was just that like, this is as much distance as I can give you. Like, I am not here. Please ignore me. Oh God, I don't want any of this on me. Oh Lord.
Clara's picking at cheese and crackers mainly. There are lots of very, very fancy cheeses and fresh crackers and some fresh fruit. Just getting carbs and fats to hopefully settle stomach. But she is eating. Look,
Yeah.
Bethany, I know that you have every right to be completely, awfully angry with us, and you clearly are, but we're following through on the information. We're handling it, and you can't hate us forever. I'm sorry. I didn't want last night to happen the way it did either, but it's done now. There's nothing we can do to take it back.
I know.
Is there any way we can make this at all better?
You can be quiet so I can look at the horizon and think.
Okay. Oh. Quiet we can be.
Clara, knock a point of stability off.
Yeah.
For the resounding rejection.
Yep. You know, we haven't
Matthew.
listened. ages.
Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew will just, he's not going to say anything because there's no
Fair.
point. But he will just basically, like, if she allows it, meet Bethany's eyes. And there's definitely an understanding of, like, I'm not going to push this. But also just kind of, there is a tension there that is making it, I want to say, clear that the conversations that they have had in the past about trying to move forward is something that he wants to continue doing. And I feel like the only way that he can show that he respects that is by being silent. And so that is what he's going to do, and he is going to eat that fucking lobster thermadore. And, like, it is not pleasant to have lobster thermadore in the desert that has been sitting in the car for, like, I don't know, like an hour. But, like, Matthew is basically attempting through his own toxic, stoic, like, cannot have emotions openly so much to show that he respects and cares about his sisters in the only way he can. And that's through nonverbal communication. Like, there's so much of, like, I am trying, all the things that would better be talked out, quite frankly, in a valid and emotional way, I'm going to just hope are realized through my actions. And I want to say that if they don't pick up on this, that's okay, because it's not actually healthy communication. But that is what he is attempting to do.
Wow.
Terrible thing. Bethany appreciates it, because if he'd opened his mouth, she'd gotten up from the table and walked away.
Thank you for encouraging his toxicness. I love you.
Meanwhile, Marcus Aurelius's Force Ghost is standing next to, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, just staring at Matthew, being like, you read the book, but you didn't get it, dude. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Don't act like a Van Horst, guys. Please don't.
Don't do that.
Clara looks, she's also respecting Bethany's request, but looks gently devastated. She's definitely unwell. She feels a bit better having put some food in her, but wincing against the sunlight, she kind of pulls her glasses off and stares at them both, and just has that how did we get here look. She's remembering back to the picnic at their father's crematorium, at the funeral, where they hadn't really seen each other a lot in years, but they were together and supported and loved each other and really had each other's backs. And now she feels very alone. And then puts her glasses back on to hide the fact that she wants to cry. And eats a shrimp cocktail.
Bethany is doing her best to ignore her sister.
It's hard enough to cut things and do things with his left hand anyway, so Matthew actually does gently, carefully put an arm around Clara's shoulders with his left arm. He's not ready to talk to her about any of this, but he is at least giving her physical closeness. That's all he can do.
Bethany, David, when Matthew puts his arm around Clara, there's just a moment, there's 4 people here and you don't want to look at, there's 3 other people here and you don't want to look at 2 of them. There is a moment when Matthew puts his arm around Clara that you are looking at David, and David gives you a very telling non-expression. It's that's kind of like the art of the void. And essentially it says, Well, you're just going to have to deal with it because I'm not giving you a hug.
Bethany does not want a hug from David at all.
And he knows she doesn't. It's just that perfectly blank, like, I'm not hugging you.
Yeah, he gets a very like gentle, disapproving, like that was never a request look back.
He knows. He didn't want to either.
Mm.
But it's that just like,
Mm.
sorry, I'm not your emotional support.
Mm-mm. It's not where I need your emotional support. I need it when you kill things.
Yes. Yes. He is not an emotional support war angel. He is a tactical support war angel.
Yes.
So the wind picks up. It's the desert. It's flat. There's wind. It sucks. But the wind blows generally kind of south to north in this moment. And Bethany, you intuit this. You kind of take a minute and you look, and just things line up in your mind in this moment of unwelcome clarity. And you see where Las Vegas is.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine, you can see some of the buildings, and some of the buildings in Vegas are very distinct. So it does allow itself to create kind of like a bit of a triangulation.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that wind is blowing right from where the nukes are tested.
Mm.
This is nuclear wind. I mean, there hasn't been a bomb testing, so it's not like blast wave, but this is nuclear wind. This is when the mushroom cloud rises up into the sky. This is where that dust falls.
Mm.
And it's almost invisible, but you a little bit of dust.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a little bit of just slightly particulate air coats the food and the wine glasses as it goes past, because it's dusty. It's been doing it the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And
she
you can
reaches out and touches her glass and like runs her thumb along where the dust is to feel it.
It doesn't feel any different, but knowing it's there now, you know, it changes things.
Yeah.
David eats generally fairly quickly, because it seems to him like this is just going to be the most awkward lunch on the planet, and he decides to busy himself ever so slightly with like getting the car ready. You know, he pops the hood, and he seems to do some sort of inspection or puttering, probably checking the radiator if anything in this heat, and just kind of does a few things. And you see him he ends up with a little bit of like grease and engine oobleck on his hands. And then he goes around the other side of the car.
Clara finishes the bottle of wine and then reaches for the bottle of champagne, because they've all eaten something. And she brought it, and we're going to drink it and enjoy it. And it's booze, so we might as well. It might be one nice thing we'll enjoy at this table. So she pops open the champagne, and the pop makes her jump a little. It's just loud. And this place is kind of unnerving. And she knows how to open champagne. It's fine, but... And then goes and pours everybody some without asking.
Withdrawal makes you twitchy.
Yeah.
Matthew will take his glass, because he's finished eating, at least for now. He's got now. And he will look at the others and say, I'm going to have a cigarette.
Of course.
I'll be back in a bit. And he's going to go and just kind of walk to the edge of the little picnic area and just look at it with his champagne, with his cigarette, with trying to deal with the fact that this is not something that he can fix easily. Have just a moment.
Yeah, there's no good answer for this.
Yeah.
None of your usual tools work.
No, they don't.
Okay. Does anybody else want to do anything else at lunch? Aside from think about how far you've all gone since the last picnic lunch?
Actually, Clara, in efforts to distract herself, basically, oh, this might be a real bad idea.
What?
Wants to use enhanced awareness because the desert has always felt weird and off and uncomfortable, and now we're as far into it as we've ever been.
That's true.
So-
You are fairly deep into the desert.
And now she's several drinks in because she still thinks she needs to get intoxicated to use that because unhealthy thoughts. So she's just pulls her glasses off and a big, deep look around, trying to see what the illusion, is it thin here at all? Is there anywhere, is it thin everywhere because it's so fucking creepy? I don't know. So I'm just gonna roll enhanced awareness and hope I get above a 9.
Oh yeah, it'd be super duper bad to roll a 9 or lower here.
Yeah,
Well,
Oh, we're
let's
fine.
see what happens.
fine. 16.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Well, that's okay, I guess.
yes.
It's not thin. It's, you're not sitting on a gateway or anything else like that that's going to say, oh, with just a little push. It's not like the ritual combat
Yeah.
circle. It's not like the possessed, invaded, terrible house that you grew up in. It's not like the graveyard where not Bethany was cannibalized by actual Bethany. It's just, it is absent of safety measures. That's kind of the feeling that you get is that you're used to being in a city. You're used to being in a densely populated, densely controlled, densely human mandated environment. And with that comes an understanding that you are, that's your natural space. It's what you're used to seeing. This place is one misprint on a map away from being eaten by the desert. When somebody prints the 1958 West Coast Atlas and they fuck up and leave this little rest stop off the map, it's going to disappear. You are that, where you are sitting is this close. I mean, it is a tiny little speck of civilization. It is a mote in God's eye of civilization, and all it would take is just a moment to blink it away.
Hate that.
It's fair.
It's all right. We're Van Horst. We're going to last forever and leave legacies forever. So we're better than this place.
The scars will last forever, yes.
Yeah. She turns away gently, unnerved, drinks more.
If anything, it does kind of put you into mind of the first nuclear bomb that you saw go off, the good test, air quotes, the good test, the one that achieved full critical mass and detonation, where you saw great shapeless giants striding and a twisted tree and other forms and figures and places. It makes you feel like if something came to snatch away this tiny little abandoned beachhead of civilization, that the hands would come from there.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
There are strange things about this place, but it's not Metropolis out there.
Not at all. 0%. This is as un-Metropolis as you have ever been in your entire life.
Mm-hmm. We should finish up and get moving. Would rather get back to some semblance of what we're actually looking for instead of this nothing.
Yeah. What's your expectations for what's your expectations for St. George? You kind of don't know anything about the town. Like, what are you imagining? Like when you say St. George, Utah, what storyboard flies across the minds of the Van Horsts?
I think Podunk Little probably doesn't even have a stoplight. Maybe there will be a convenience store, maybe a post office, probably 3 churches.
Okay. Matthew, what do you think is coming?
I think that there are going to be, if anything, answers, whether or not, like for him, it's less about what is there physically and more that, especially more and more due to the pressure from Bethany and the pressure from the actual events of things, he is trying to like his eyes are more and more on, I need to peel back layers. So I think for him it's a combination of hope and desire that whatever is in St. George will give him answers that can allow him to move forward.
Okay.
Whether or not he's correct on this,
It almost sounds to me like he's looking for the peeling corner of a label that he can pick at.
Yeah, like I feel like that's where he is generally. Like there's so much right now where like he is off kilter and uncomfortable that the idea of finding something to grab onto, and whether or not like ripping that up, it's the, as you put, a corner of the label or a piece of flesh, at this point he doesn't care as long as he can get a handhold.
That's fair. And speaking of getting a handhold of flesh, Bethany, what do you think is in St. George?
think that St. George 1 looks in her brain like a Western film set, like the very small, tiny town that is that. And what Bethany is hoping for to find out, maybe not in St. George, but what has called her from the desert since we got here, has been the Lady in Red. And so she's always gently hoping that the excursion out into the wilds would like bring her back into that sphere.
Okay. And how do you feel about that? Like, I mean, yes, excited, but I mean, is this, what's the vibe of Bethany's anticipatory tension?
She wants, when she meets the Lady in Red, to be in a place where that she is there is pleasing, I guess. Like that she has amassed enough knowledge or enough like power to be interesting and approved of. Like the new girl in school who wants to make friends with the best girl, like the like coolest girl in school, so you can also be the coolest girl in school, but you have to be cool enough to hang. So Bethany wants to be cool enough to hang.
Okay. A lot of presentation pressure.
Manning.
And we all know how fun presentation pressure is. Okay. So it looks like this is about as much food as the three of you are going to manage to get down without resolving blood vendettas. So yeah. So do we get ready to move on?
I think so.
Okay. Matthew, you're still in the front seat. Can you roll me a... Ooh, now I'm going to have to remember what it's called. What a damn fool. How about you give me an observe a situation roll? So that would be a perception.
The thing that I got a -1 for. Yeah.
Yes. Well,
that's good. So I rolled a 14. So that's a 13.
okay. Middle of the road. Middle of the roads means you're not in the ditch. Okay. It's when you guys get in the car, David put things away, he packs things up, and you can easily tell as David put things away that things are being repacked. The way things are being put away is different than the way they were put away by the hotel staff. It looks like there's been some amount of triage, maybe, where it seems like some things are getting packed together now and some things are being packed apart. And it was very clear that if you looked at it, you could tell that there's kind of like, this is the go away pile and this is the keep me pile. So it looks like the things that David has decided are not going to be reasonably consumable at the end of this trip are over here now. And the things that he thinks that if you get here in a decent time and you can get them into some kind of a refrigerator, that they'll be able to be eaten later or they'll be usable as road snacks or whatever. But there was definitely a separation. All of the lobster thermadore went in the do not eat me pile.
Yeah, that's sitting like a rock.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like a rock made out of lobster liver. I made lobster thermadore once in culinary school, and that was a learning experience. And I wish you all the best, those of you that enjoy that dish.
I've never had it, and I'm very curious now.
It's the 11th plague of Egypt.
Wow.
I figured Clara wasn't going to order a threatening aspect.
No.
Very tempted to, so I was getting like the most fancy 1950s swag food.
Oh yeah, like it's just, it's you cut the lobster in half and you take out all of those really great bits that you normally leave sitting on the table when you get like a steamed lobster. You take the good ones out and you keep them and you get rid of a unsettlingly small number of not good bits, and you mix together with some lobster meat and some cheese. I think it's a Béarnaise sauce. Yeah, there were drugs that year.
Yeah.
Some other things, you put some breadcrumbs on it, and then you put both halves of the lobster body cavity up under a broiler.
Yeah,
and you broil it.
As someone who really loves like a good fresh, steamed Maine lobster or like, boiled Maine lobster just with some fresh drawn butter, this is a travesty.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and here's the cool part. When you cook lobster, it's not something you typically see when you steam them. When you cook a lobster, like the muscles contract logically because you are heating up a muscle fiber. When you put the lobster in the broiler, it waves at you because
that makes sense.
Yeah. That was one of 2 days in culinary school that someone had to leave the room during the during the cooking process. The other part was when a complete and utter moron was still actively on an acid journey the day we broke down a half a deer with a bandsaw.
Lord.
Choices.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That person had a day.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. I don't take hallucinogens. Hallucinogens are for other brains.
Clara does keep in the car with her crackers, probably
Yes, very
full of
good.
the fruit, and the rest of the champagne. She'll just drink it out of the bottle. It's fine. But back in the back seat with car snacks to curl into a corner and maybe pass out for the rest of this journey if she's lucky.
Okay. That's a decision.
Where we're at.
Okay. So we bundle into the car. Anything else? Someone uses the grim and terrible restroom.
Probably.
Yeah, it's not as bad as it could be, but it's you know, it's a
Yeah.
Not as bad as it could
Better.
be. Still not great.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay.
Clara's not hydrated enough to use the restroom.
I'm just debating because if Bethany does go into the restroom, it will be the filthiest restroom she's ever been in her entire life.
Oh yeah, whether it is or not, huh?
Yeah, whether it's not that bad, it doesn't matter. It will be the worst restroom she's ever been in her entire life.
It's like, how much do you want to traumatize Bethany?
I mean, I feel like she walked to the door, looked inside, turned around, and left. It was like, no.
Okay. Did you ever see Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember the episode when something went bad in the fridge and it was so bad that the entire ship was
Yes.
hallucinating?
Yes.
And they opened it and they only they only animated like the first 3 inches of the door opening and it was just Lovecraftian horror.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's what I imagine. That like
Mhm.
Bethany's schizophrenia is just like,
No.
and
Yeah.
then she just shuts it.
Yep. Done. Nope.
Yes. And Bethany somehow, some way, is the first Van Horst to pee in a bottle. It's
You think it was surprising, but really, it wasn't.
None of that.
yeah. Matthew, when you guys get in the car, there's a little bit of that rearrange and everybody just kind of gets settled again. It's the road trip thing. David turns on the radio and apparently it's whatever song is playing is one that he enjoys because he kind of gives a little half grin as it turns on. I mean, it's a very normal, mundane, like, hey, I like this song. When he smiles, there is a smear on his teeth. And the first thing that flashes across Matthew's mind is there's lipstick on his teeth. Because that's
Nah.
almost what it looks like. But it's black. And
Huh.
kind of viscous.
That was not what I expected. Because when you said lipstick, I thought red.
No, it's only in its shape. Is that kind of like that little slash across the...
Huh. Then I would actually like to use magical intuition.
Okay. I can tell you right now that it's motor oil.
Okay, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. Like, I feel like Matthew has a moment where he just, like, does not know what even to fucking think of this. He's just like, I would have, like, I feel like internally he's like, I would have been more comfortable if it had been blood.
Yes.
Somehow.
We're experiencing cognitive difficulties. Please stand by.
Yeah, like, I feel like his brain just kind of stutters, stops, and he's just like, I'm gonna just roll down the window and smoke another cigarette at this point.
Yeah. And it's gone the next
Wish
time.
that I
you
was
look-
drunker.
It's gone the next time you look over. But you can't entirely be certain that you also didn't see David, like, doing the post-meal teeth lick.
Yeah, no. That's the assumption he makes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Okay. The rest of the trip is generally painless. like I said, it's only like 2 hours worth of driving, so it takes you guys 3. Let's say that you stop one more time. You know, stretch your legs, crack your back, you know, get something else to drink and drink it, holding still. I'm pretty comfortable saying that we have not made up any better in the rest of the car ride. I feel like this does not seem to be a disconnect that is going to be resolved in one car trip.
It is a tense and silent
Yeah.
car ride on this part, and I think that that's probably true for Bethany.
Claire's just gotten drunk, and because she thinks her and Matthew have made up at least, and she wants to sleep, she's sprawled out in the back of the seat and has done that thing where she's kicked her high heels off and kicked her legs up on the shoulder of the bench seat that Matthew's at, so her feet are like right next to his shoulder, and she's doing the lounge of it's a long car trip. I feel like I'm going to be here for 12 million hours, and I'm going to stretch out as much as I can and sleep now that I've drank the rest of the champagne.
Okay. No, that's fine.
It is not classy.
No.
Trying to make it look classy.
It strikes me actually as very adolescent.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It gives me a sense of something Clara did when Clara was like 10, 11, 12.
Matthew will just put his hand, which like sad hand, but he will put his hand at
The
like,
trauma
on
mitten.
her ankles
Mm-hmm.
and just like leave it there
That's what she
for
wanted.
the rest of the rest of the ride. And he will, I feel like he'll like have one moment of like looking over at Bethany and then be like, I shouldn't have done that. Like look back out the window.
Bethany, on a scale of 1 to last 15 minutes of carry, what's your emotional state right now?
Like a 7.
Okay.
Let's call it a 7. It's not as bad as the Royal Phoenix Society, but it is close-ish.
One could experience an outburst given appropriate stimulus.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Then how about you actually roll your schizophrenia?
Yeah.
And let's see what this intense emotional state is doing to your mental stability.
Okay, hang on. I gotta see where my negatives are.
That's a straight roll.
Yeah, it is. But I have negatives because it's my disadvantage, so I'm at least down to -2 on it. I think. So I have to check where my stability is. Right, because it's just that. But how stable is Bethany right now anyway? Okay, I'm only at a -1 to disadvantage rolls. This is why that's important. Because I rolled an 11. That's
Oh.
10.
Oh,
Which is not a 9.
Which is not a 9, but it was one more lower, if I'd lost one more stability, it would be.
Yeah,
wait,
that could
isn't
have been a
11
whole
minus
event.
2 9?
Yes, but it's 11 minus 1. I currently have only
Oh, okay.
-1 to disadvantage rolls because I'm only at stress, not neurotic.
Good.
That's the important distinction where I was like, it's important to know where she is
Yeah.
in her togetherness. So that's
Okay. Yeah, it's not as bad as it could be.
not as bad as it could be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Are we ready to get to St. George? Is there anything else
think
we
so.
want to handle before we finish our little bit of like our loading screen? Okay. It is 9:15. Do we want to take 5? So that we
that
can
makes sense.
Yeah.
so that we can trundle right through. So
Yeah.
it's 9:15. We'll be back around that 9:20, 9:25 mark.
Mhm.
And then we will all see what St. George is like. And we'll see who lives there and who stalks there and other exciting things. You're gonna want to bring your notebook with you because this is gonna be a real clue-tastic couple of hours. So we'll see you in a moment. Thank you very much.
Play safe, watch safe. You know, the safety mechanics are for you guys too. Always do the right thing for you. Thank you very much. Now on to the thing we just warned you about.
Thank you for bearing with us during the intermission. Something that I would like to say before we get too deep into this is a content warning and a caveat. The content warning is that the St. George storyline is going to, perhaps unsurprisingly, look into things like cancer and cancer-related body horror. So if you find that something like that might be a little bit outside of your comfort zone, just be aware. We are going to be dealing with the effects of nuclear testing on human beings, and it's a sad, sad fucking story. So, yeah, but it's also going to be body horror, and it's going to be culty and weird. So if that's not your jam, we hope and applaud you that if when you decide that something's no longer a source of entertainment and instead is a source of stress, that you take a break and come back when that part is over. And nobody that you can see on your TV right now is going to think any less of you for doing it. As a matter of fact, we're going to think better of you. Second of all, the world, the world, the United States, the world that the Van Horsts occupy and make objectively worse with their existence, is not ours. This is not St. George, Utah, that was around in 1957. Narrative liberties have been taken, and the people, places, things, and religious organizations that feature heavily in St. George are through a very dark, dirty, recently spat on KULT, Divinity Lost lens. So don't take any of the things that people, groups, organizations, or religions do as a statement on that religion, or consider any of it canon. That's it. You know, we're telling a scary story and we're using the props that the world has given us, but this isn't our world. It's a worse one. We live in a world where the sun has set, It's a good stuff in the front of the book. So that's it. Okay. St. George, Utah. Population 5,000 and change. It is, on the scale of the Van Horsts, vanishingly small. There are not very many tall buildings. As a matter of fact, 2 stories seems to be the tallest. Can we put up picture 1, please? Because we brought visual aids. There it is. There's the whole fucking town. Yep, it is teeny tiny. It is small. That is a historically adequately accurate picture. That is, I think, from 1960, but I think it gives you enough of what you're seeing. It is a small, tiny town. It's got dairy. It has cotton. And it has a staggeringly tall, pearly white Mormon temple in the middle of it with its spires reaching up fairly high. It is, at this point, inarguably the largest building in town. As you guys get slightly closer, let's go to picture 2. Yeah, there's another view. So yeah, it is a tiny ass town. And you can see it is very wide open. It is very flat. It is very honestly, it should remind you of some of the towns around Pittsburgh, except if someone flattened them. It's like if someone took the suburbs of Pittsburgh and hit them with a rolling pin. Is almost the vibe, because you have these the little squares and the little auto mechanics and places like that. You have all the different things, but it's just flat, and nothing is built up and nothing is on top of each other. And there is a sense of land inefficiency that might be going through the mind of the band Horsts, with the far more costly per square foot lifestyle that living in a fucking valley gives you. Seeing this much space between some of this stuff might be a little disruptive. And then let's go to picture 3 as David drives you right down Main Street. And that's fucking Main Street. So out of the 3 of you, Clara was pretty close. It is a little podunk town. It is, I mean, when you say Main Street USA, by God, this is Main Street USA. This is that 2 to 3 story small town Main Street. And I can walk to mine. I mean, mine's like a half a mile over there. And it's there's more life in that picture than there is on the Main Street of my town. It looks cute to start. It looks homey. It looks very you could say it's idyllic, maybe a little bit, just because it's a little small. I mean, if Disney's Beauty and the Beast was set in 1957, this is absolutely the town that Belle would be walking down the main street of bitching about at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. There's a couple of convenience stores. There is it's set out on a perfect 90-degree grid pattern. So it's the town follows the contour of the land, but within that contour it is a Roman grid. 90 degrees, boom, 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 boom. Exactly the same size each block. So, Clara, maybe in, I don't know, 300, 400, 500, 600 years, it might get to be the size of your beloved New York City. Maybe. Clearly, this place has never been touched by Metropolis. There's not enough city here for the first city to even register. You think? Maybe? I don't know. Metaphysics isn't really your guys' bag, except for maybe Bethany, and even then she's kind of driving by touch. So, it is a small town. There are dairy farms on the edge. There are cotton fields. There are people. It is first of all, it's hot as hell and it's in the middle of the day. So visible population is going to be fairly low. But there's a couple of diners. There is a general store. It looks like there's a clothier, suits and such custom tailoring. There's a few other stores. However, the thing that's interesting is that when you drive down Main Street, there are 3 3 pharmacies, which is a per capita, we could call that a profound statistical anomaly. I think we could agree on that. Let me see where I wrote down the name of that, because we did have a name. Yeah, McDonough's Apothecary. And you do see McDonough's Apothecary. Did you bring that bottle with you?
Yep.
Okay.
And all the notes and the wallet, like.
Yep.
Yep.
Good. Yeah, it's McDonough. It is Milton and Sons. And the third one is apparently coming up, like it's going up, so you can actually see them. They have stopped for lunch in the process of hanging hanging the signage. So you have Apothecary up, but you cannot see the name of it yet. It's weird. I mean, it's the first thing that really leaps out to you as a weird thing is the 3. I mean, that's a lot of, pharmacology for a small town. Typically, you would be lucky if there was one in a town this size in this year. Like, I don't even think that they have a graveyard here. So for there to be two established and one coming in, that's weird. There is a okay, Matthew, I hesitate to call it a hotel. I mean, it is a place where you can a place where you can exchange currency for sleeping arrangements. So it fulfills the same technical function as a hotel, but you have a feeling that maybe the words like inn, tavern,
Motel?
motel, no-tel, motel, caravanserai even
Motor
comes
lodge.
to mind. Yeah. It's there is no room service in St. George.
You look so.
Let me take a moment. I'm getting vapors.
Yeah.
All right, we have David. He'll be our room service.
It's true. Like, I feel like Matthew will like look around and be like, "Is there any other place? Oh, nope, this is where we're at." Okay.
Yeah, it is called the Dawning Light Inn.
That's not ominous.
No, it's not. It's actually like in a different world, it would actually be super cute because it's like there's like a little bit of woodwork above the door, and it's got like the cute little like yeah, Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun. It's just like it's a little hemisphere with little like sunbeam yellow beams coming off the top. It's cute. It is clearly a labor of love. Because you have to love it here to live here, because clearly there's no other reason to.
All right. So let's go to the Dawning Light Inn.
Okay. You walk in, and the first thing that hits you is the coolness. It's not 65. I mean, it's not an Acme grocery store, but what it is it's like high 70s, which is still comparatively nice, especially also because you're now out of the sun. There's a couple of fans going. It's fairly nice. There is a gal at the front counter. She looks to be in her you want to say maybe late 30s. She's got one of the problems with first impressions is that typically the way you describe them or the way you define them, one, you jump to a bunch of conclusions, and two, there's usually some form of grossness embedded in them. She has that kind of like mother of three plumpness, and her hair is pulled back in a very simple bun. She's wearing a very simple dress. There is no neckline. I mean, it's not up to here, but it is it is chaste. You know, it is a very modest. There's the word I'm looking for. It is a very modest dress cut. She smiles at you, gives you a big smile, and says, "Hello, and welcome to the Dawning Light Inn. Well, I know that we don't have any reservations. Would you like a few rooms, or just directions, or are you just trying to cool off a little bit?"
Matthew will basically approach the winning smile.
Okay.
We'd
How
love
winning
to
is your
have-
smile, having simmered in the bile of your sister's disdain for 3 hours?
It's as winning as someone who desperately wants a win.
Okay. So you have brought the boardroom with you, huh?
God, like, may I have someone who is not going to be angry at me for 2 hot seconds.
Right.
So he will give her, like, we'd love to have, if we could have 3 rooms.
Her do a little bit of calculus. She sees 2 girls. She sees 2 guys as David comes in behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And she does a little bit of calculus, and she notes it. And she's not, like, there's no disapproval, but you are also fairly certain that she and everyone that she talks to tonight is going to know who brought whose bags to which rooms.
Oh yeah, he knows.
Yeah.
One of those, and then he'll continue, and be like, obviously one of the rooms will need to have, is this the sort of, like, I don't know at this time period if, like, double rooms were always queen doubles or if they were different at any point during this time, but
this is not a 2 queen bed kind of town.
Oh, okay. So if you can't have 2 people in a room, then he is actually going to ask for 4 rooms.
Oh no, you can have 2 people in a room. They're just going to be twins.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, it's you get a queen or you get 2 twins.
Okay. Then he'll ask for 2 queens and one that has 2 twins.
Okay. She says absolutely, and asks how long would you like to stay? Do you want to? We do how this much a night. We do a significantly reduced price per week. It looks like just based off the questions she's asking, you're getting a vibe that, like, the people that stay here are either people between here and there, or people that are stuck here for a while.
He'll look at the sisters, because I think that we only want to do one night for at least, like, until we know what the fuck is going on.
If you want to be back in Vegas for the next scheduled nuclear bomb test, then it needs to be one night.
Okay.
Yeah. Then he'll say 1 night.
Okay. She's perfectly fine. That'd be great. She just seems to be she seems nice. You don't know if she's kind, but she's nice. She exchanges some money with you and gives you 3 sets of keys. Offers, let me just walk you up to the rooms. They're right over here.
We actually have 2 keys for the twin room.
Oh, where is my head? And turns it gives you the other key.
He will give the 2 keys to the ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Because clearly the room in which 2 people are staying in is the ladies' room. Because he's not dumb. And we can swap around later.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, because,
Yep.
my 2021 ass was like, yeah, each girl is going to get her own room and the 2 fucking bums are going to sleep on the twin beds, right? No.
Oh.
No, you are not.
Bethany
What
is
if we
the
saw
only
each
one.
other naked?
Matthew is the only one who gets a twin.
You will find out who gets one because I'm going to talk to you about that.
All right.
So Matthew, will give a key for one of the queens to David. Take key for the queen for him.
Okay.
And we'll have, basically, arrange for the appropriate bags to go to the appropriate places.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he's gonna wait until he's gonna tip more than he's supposed to because he doesn't know how you're supposed to tip for like podunk towns.
Matthew, your tip, like your traditional tip, the tip you've given dead Jimmy like 6 times, is more than the rooms are.
Yeah, no, he doesn't understand how money works, and it's going to be like I feel like because like the rooms are more, he's like, I guess I have the tip or something. Like, I don't know. It's still like an absurd amount for like what the actual thing is.
Yeah, and when you give it to the gal, she's entirely confused.
Yeah.
Like, you could have turned around and like offered her a dead chicken, and she would have given you the same like, I do not understand the social behavior that's happening here.
He will encourage her to this is the social behaviors for you to, like, he will nod to her and kind of give the look of like, this is when you're supposed to leave.
She is so flabbergasted by the tip that like there is clearly a moment where she's just like, what? And so you can watch the transmission of her thoughts like slip back into gear and catch back up. And she says, well, thank you very much. Yes. I'll leave you all alone now.
Thank you.
Please call the front desk if you need any more towels. I know that usually people like to, take a shower as soon as you know what? I'm just going to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be at the front desk if you need anything.
Of course, honey.
And
You're very sweet.
You can watch like her conversation cards like fall mangled out of her ears as she like she has like you can tell that she said the same thing 500 times and she has a whole thing, and between giving her that much money in her mind essentially randomly and she has yet to understand the social structure of these 4 people. So she's she's like, but it's not judgy yet. It's really, she looked excited, exactly like someone who was excited for gossip.
Yep. He will, like, I feel like they'll, after like they put their things in their rooms, well, like, since she did that, he will then walk over to the twin room to check in on his beloved sisters. And when he walks in, he has his key in his hand. And he will look at Bethany and say, "Can I have your key?"
Sure.
And he will press his into her hand. We'll put the beds together. Obviously, we'll need to be discreet here. But at least for now, we have this. His goal also would be to where's the setup of the beds? Like, are we in, are the rooms all next to each other that we got? Or are they, like, different areas?
They are in what is essentially an L.
Okay.
So you've got the 2 twins next to the queen, and then across the hallway from queen 1 is queen 2.
Okay.
So
then
it is as close as the layout of this very small 2-story hotel will allow 3 rooms to be. Because you guys now have
Uh.
3 out of 4 rooms on this floor of the hotel.
Then he's going to put David in the one that's across the hall because it's easier to sneak from one to another.
Okay.
If it's if they're the 2 that are next to each other. But at least we've gotten that.
Yes. When David unlocks the door, like he grabs the doorknob and like just gives the whole thing this like very disdainful, annoyed look. And you can watch, like, have you ever seen someone prepare their body for a physical act? Like, I have to lift up this 75-pound bag of rice. And you can watch them kind of like mentally line up their muscles to prepare to do that. Like David grabs the doorknob and he kind of does one of those like preparatory muscle movements and then just gently opens it. And there's this kind of like, what just happened here? Probably based off the look that kind of flickered across his face, he's probably insulted by the flimsiness of the doorknob. You know, of that, like, I could tear this door off its fucking hinges if I wanted to sort of vibe. But it's also David. So what David can do physically isn't, you know, but I guess if he can do it, he assumes that the bad guys have someone who can do it too.
All right.
All right. There are.
I need to shower before we do anything, but we should probably come up with a cover story for us because we are going to be the talk of town no matter what. Nobody knows us here. If we're trying to get information on somebody who is an enemy of an ally, it would be best that they don't have our actual names and that we don't draw more attention than we are already going to. Possibly cousins of Annette's. I doubt she was in any sort of position of money. Maybe even old friends who came into town having heard that she was having a rough time of it and then realized that we got here too late or she's not around. But we should think of some story and stick to it, all of us, before they start talking about us and we just come out as being who we are, because we are loud no matter what we do.
Hey, Clara, how about you roll just plus intuition? So 2d10 plus intuition.
Yep. That's good. Oh yeah, it's really good. 17.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
One of the benefits that Clara has experienced that isn't really something that either of her siblings has experienced is the level of communication that a small social network can perform. Because of theater, you know the power of one nasty rumor and how quickly it can rip its way through a theater community in a city. So you know that whatever your cover story is, you are either going to need to be able to bullshit through not knowing something, or you're going to have to create one that is going to be like, no one's going to know that person. You know, it's a small town and that lady was probably here her whole life. And if you say, oh, we're her cousins, they're going to go, oh, Samantha or Mary.
Yeah. No, the moment Clara said that, she realized, no, maybe old friend from, like, oh, she's been here her whole life. Can't even be like, old friend from high school.
Do they know she's dead?
Probably not. She's just gone missing, gone to Vegas and gone missing.
It's only been like 5 days, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could be friends. Like, if she's been here her entire life, but has her entire family been here their whole life, we don't know. But that's the other problem, is that we don't know anyone else.
You could just be tourists.
We could just be tourists.
I mean, you
be
could
from
just
Vegas.
yeah. Bethany's absolutely right. You guys are only a couple hours from Vegas. You could just be like, oh, we wanted to
That
get out of the
told
hustle and
us
bustle.
Her little town was so charming. We just had to come see it for ourselves. Oh, she's so sweet.
Yeah, so we met
Wanted to
at the
come
table in
see her
Vegas.
friends.
Mm-hmm.
That works.
Yeah.
Like, quite frankly, people who met her in Vegas thought she was like, they don't know how rich people act anyway. The idea that rich people could be so frivolous as to meet someone, hear that their town was nice, and want to go visit it, one, that actually would track with the Van Horsts were the worst. Two, it's believable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What are our new names?
What did we sign into the hotel as?
Did they make us sign a guest registry?
Oh yeah.
Well, we might be signed under our own names, unless Matthew thought ahead.
Can I do a roll to see whether or not I actually was smart enough to do that?
Do you think that would be act under pressure or keep it together?
Act under pressure.
Okay. See if you retroactively. Let's see if you acted well under pressure.
That is, it's coolness, right?
I'm fairly certain, but I'm going to double check with you. Act under pressure is plus coolness.
Oh, thank goodness.
Mm.
That is 14.
14. Okay, middle of the ground. So you do it, but you hesitate, are delayed, or must deal with a complication. The GM reveals an unexpected outcome, a high price, or a difficult choice. So what you did is that you, of course, Matthew, you grew up in the era of guest books. You grew up in the era of guest registers. You have signed many of these books. And what you always did is when you, because it was always Malice Van Horst, Papa Mal's signature on the line. And then on the next line, you, as the young man of the house, were to sign for all of the children.
Mm-hmm.
So you are used to doing Matthew, comma, Bethany, comma, at Clara, comma, Izzy for the times that she was home, Van Horst. So you got Matthew, comma, Bethany, comma, Clara, fuck. Some other name that starts with maybe a V or a W. Like
yeah, like Williamson.
Williamson. Yes. That's a good bland Minnesota name. I like it. I think I actually knew some Williamsons. So yes, so you managed to steer into the curve. So the good news is that you didn't write Van Horst. The bad news is that all three of your actual first names are on that register. So if you leave enough of a mark where someone would actually want to do some looking into you, those three first names together might be enough to light a fuse that leads back to you. Maybe.
So Matthew winces slightly and he says, our first names, scratching them out after one would have been even more suspicious.
It's fine. What last name did you give us?
Williamson?
All right. It should be fine. If you go by Matt and I go by Claire, they're close enough to the names that are on the register, but if people really start asking questions, they're not the names we generally use. I know that I'm being paranoid, but I think it'll just be easier on us.
Better to be paranoid.
If we're not staying long, we probably should. There are two ways we can do this. We either do it subtly, which would be going to the local bar tonight and waiting till people get a little in their cups and talking to people as the rumor mill and the booze is flowing. If we want to be direct, we should just go to the apothecary and to the Church of Latter-day Saints, the one that she had the secretary's card for, and start asking.
I think that we need answers that I wouldn't be so easily gotten through the.
Sorry, darling, you'll have to speak up. We do need answers.
No, I think that we need answers that wouldn't be so easily gotten through the rumor mill, but I also don't know. I know that you have a great deal of skill with getting answers in that way, so I may be incorrect on that. And being direct has its risks.
It does. I feel like if we can get dinner here, go to the bar tonight, say we had met her in Vegas and we were hoping to see her again. Is there anybody else around that she might hang out with? The other option, since she was very clearly a churchgoer, if there is a service, is showing up to the church service and hopes to have met her there. Or if there's some social club after church. I don't really do these things, but starting socially, and then tomorrow in the morning, if we need to go straight to the apothecary before we leave, we can take the direct route if we don't get enough. That is my thought. You can overrule here, but I am fairly adept at social situations, if nothing else these days.
You're the one who has the most experience in this way. I see to what you want.
Bethany, any thoughts, preferences?
Terrible at this, and you know it. Whatever.
Then I'm going to shower. It might still be worth going into one of these apothecaries and seeing why in hell there's 3 of them.
It's a good question.
That may be something that myself and Bethany should do while you are socializing.
That sounds...
I'm worried that will make too much of an impression if all 3 of us go.
I agree. That's fine. Let me shower, and I will talk to our lovely front desk girl and a few others and figure out the best way to go about this if you want to go the slightly more direct route, the both of you.
For now, we'll just see what the apothecaries look like. We don't need to ask any questions.
Right. Be safe. I love you. I love both of you.
Love you too.
With that, she disappears into the shower.
Okay.
I'm sorry that I'm splitting the party. I was just like, oh man, Matthew and Bethany are not going to be good at socializing right now.
No.
Bethany wants to take a nap. She's been up all night. She hasn't slept yet.
Yeah. I think you haven't slept since
She hasn't slept since the party. Since before. She didn't sleep.
I
She
think
has
that
not slept
Matthew
yet.
just looks at Bethany and says, I'll let you get some rest while Clara showers. And we'll leave.
Go with the shower. Oh. Mm.
Okay. So some things are happening here. The first thing is that Clara takes an extravagantly long shower. One, because Clara doesn't know how not to,
Mhm.
but also that that Clara has lost track of time a little bit. This is a very stress, like, Clara's under a lot of stress. She's going through like the initial bludgeonings of withdrawal. She's probably also doing a little bit of addict math, as in like, can I get drugs here?
She's quitting.
She's quitting. Okay.
Doctor said.
It's okay. Bethany has them.
Yeah.
But Clara doesn't know that, and that's actually
Mhm.
probably for the best.
Yep.
No, it is. Bethany's mad.
Yeah, she takes a lot of time, and she knows she has to put on her socialized entertainment best face. So she just needs a reset, and everybody's mad at her. And so yeah, she takes a long time in the shower, and even to like fix her hair and do some very good, slightly less flashy makeup than she normally wears, so she looks like a good, proper, Mormon girl, maybe, or at least somebody who would be friends with one.
Yeah, got to clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, and was in a sundress, which shows the wound, so she needs to repack that, and then is going to put some sort of very light sweater on or something to hide this. She doesn't want that to be the talk of things.
Okay. Depending on how much of a problem you want to make that, you might decide that you actually want to go into one of the stores and see if you can get something local. Like,
Oh yeah.
Didn't really make a lot of like cover my shoulders and cover up this part of me decisions whenever you were planning for a trip to Las fucking Vegas in the summer.
No, yeah. Maybe a stately scarf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a scarf, maybe one of those at the around the head and over the shoulders. Okay. Matthew, you are struck with a bout of, I don't want to call it depression, but it all catches up to you for a little bit while Clara's in the shower. You're in a rinky-dink tiny little town. You're in like a fucking cowboy town, and the lady at the front desk doesn't even know how to take a tip. And you're fairly certain that you won't be able to get any kind of a wire transfer of money here because they don't know you at the bank, and you can't drop your name. And Clara's fucked. And Bethany is something. She's very angry, and she's not entirely wrong to be, as much as you want to reconstrue that into something that holds you blameless. You can't this time. And you're sitting here in this hot fucking room with no air conditioning, with not enough fan cooling you off, and your drink is warming up. And it just weighs on you for a moment. And maybe the idea of walking away from all of these things sounds like it might be okay. Not here. God, no, this is awful. But what if none of the things that were going wrong right now actually mattered to you?
That'd be nice.
Yeah. what if you could just walk away from it all? Just take your shoes off and walk out there somewhere. You're already so close.
It is genuinely tempting for him because he's just so tired. He's so fucking tired.
Yeah. Bethany,
Hmm.
you lay down to take a nap. Right at that moment where a sleep paralysis demon would come and sit on your chest, you feel a press of lips on yours. And it starts off sensual and it ends somewhere aggressive. And you feel her lips against yours, and she breathes into your mouth. And you smell the air that she breathed. And when you open your eyes, you realize that you smelled that smell on the way here. She has breathed air into you that you have breathed.
Was it just along the drive, or was it where we stopped?
It was along the stretch of road where the dairy farms were.
Hmm.
It wasn't a good smell. Like, it wasn't a sexy smell.
No.
It was a smell of dairy farm. But also it was the smell of sweet wood burning. Like someone was having some kind of a burn pit, some kind of a cleanup maybe. Probably doing some amount of, fire prevention.
Mm-hmm.
And what else was there? Oh, now you remember. There was paint. There was just one spot where you are fairly certain that one of the barns had a brand new coat of that classic iron oxide red paint, because it was still shiny.
Mm-hmm.
And you looked at it for just a second, but you looked away because you knew that if you looked at it for too long, it would start bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
But the smell of cow shit and burning sweet woods and paint is a smell you smelled 2 hours ago.
Mm.
And that's counting all the drive out and fuck around time. Actually, God, no, 20 minutes ago. Matthew, Bethany, you hear the water hammer rattle of Clara's shower finishing. It was a long one. She probably used up most of the hot water and half of the cold. And you can hear the... Can I be mean to Clara for a minute?
Of course.
Okay,
She's awful.
I wanted to double check with you though.
Yeah.
You hear her like doing crooning along to whatever song is in her head, and you can hear that kind of those minor flaws that she never was able to get rid of. That, you know, those minor singing flaws that kept her from a career like she wanted. And the question I have for you two, as Clara gets dressed and gets ready and does her makeup and does her hair, the question I have for you two is, are either of you going to be here when she walks out that door?
In the case of Matthew, no, because he's in his room. The moment that like she went into shower and like Bethany went to sleep, he wasn't going to stay in the ladies' room for longer than would be appropriate.
Okay.
So he's been sitting alone in his, for now, room. But I think the only reason that he's not like just kind of getting up and leaving the hotel itself is where the fuck would he go?
Anywhere but here isn't quite a good enough answer yet, is it?
Where do I have to go?
You could check out the pharmacies.
Now he's staying here, but in an honest way, it's not for Clara, it's because he's like, it'd be really nice to walk out into the desert, but where do I fucking go from there?
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever that phrase is, what the call of the void. You don't want to do anything about it, but if maybe you cease to exist, you wouldn't really be upset.
I mean, we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah.
But for now, he's not going to just walk out.
Yeah. Bethany, what are you doing?
Not getting David to start the car and take her back to the farm right now, but that's what she wants to do very, very badly. She's also really tired and is really going to try to take a nap for like just a little bit and hope that not leaving immediately doesn't mean that it will be too late. But also part of the whole, you know, she also doesn't want to be too eager at the call. She's still a Van Horst.
Yes.
She got a call-in card and she will return when she is convenient to her.
Yes.
So she is going to take a nap about it, but also might bring it up to the siblings later that she needs to go to this dairy farm with wet paint for reasons.
This is the 1957 version of Don't Double Text. Okay. David, for his part, David has had his head on the windowsill. Like, laying his head on the windowsill like some kind of great predator. Like, you can almost see, like, the rock that he should be kind of, like, kneeling on, like some great predator or something, with, like, his head on the windowsill of the room he is supposed to be in. And he is looking out and just kind of contemplating some inscrutable who the hell knows what going on in his mind.
Like, is he contemplating, is this town too small for me to get away with walking? The answer being probably.
It's a good guess. Matthew doesn't have the context to imagine what other kinds of things he would be thinking about. So things like fields of fire and how fast can I get them across that very open, very straight street. And yeah, all of those all of those things that a deeply, deeply damaged veteran might be imagining in a new place that isn't safe and isn't what he knows, and he doesn't have anything but a fucking revolver.
Hmm.
And he knows that half the people that he sees probably have hunting rifles. Okay, so Clara comes out of the bathroom, all as bright-eyed and as bushy-tailed as a steam-cleaned, somewhat sober Clara can possibly be.
Yep.
So less bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and more glassy-eyed and frizzy.
Mhm.
No, she's got lots of hairspray, Aquanet. It's fine. She has herself put together to look like a nice girl who met another nice girl on vacation.
That's fair.
And she kind of creeps out quietly because if Bethany is asleep, she wants Bethany to be able to sleep. She is being respectful. She is walking on eggshells around everything right now and just wants to do this investigation and focus on that is the work that we are here to do, and distracting ourselves with work is better than talking about anything, apparently.
Okay.
She looks over to see if Bethany is actually asleep or not.
You are in whatever state you choose to be, Bethany.
Well, how long ago was the lady in red? Because that matters.
Probably 20 minutes.
Lightly, I think she opens her eyes when Clara walks out the door. Or like out the bathroom door, not out the door, but just like opens her eyes and looks at her.
I think I'm gonna go try to talk to the front desk girl. Just sleep. Get some rest. Yeah. And Clara, as politely as possible, without shaking any doors or slamming anything or dropping anything, though that's hard. She definitely almost drops a few things because her hands are slightly shaking. She does not want to make Bethany mad or wake her up more. Slips out the door.
Okay.
Yep.
And you go down and talk to the lady at the front desk, huh?
That's the plan.
Okay. Her name is Lisa. She is sweet. What do you want out of her?
Oh, she's coming up to look for our friend. So she just goes over and goes, "Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much. The rooms are lovely, and the shower was lovely. It's been a very long drive. I was wondering, we met, the reason we're here, we met a lovely woman named Annette Miller down in Las Vegas a few days ago. She was the most fun to be around and play with, and I know she's from here. Have you ever met her? We were trying to, I don't know, get to church with her, or if she goes out to dinner somewhere. I was just hoping to catch up with her."
She absolutely knows Annette. Annette is very regrettably a very recent widow.
Oh.
And of course, Lisa is clearly a gossip. And Lisa is clearly used to structuring her gossip in the way of small towns, which is poor dear, extremely, extremely intimate personal details. Poor dear. And so you get a lot of that. Like, her husband died. He had cancer. It was very bad. It just, and when the thing that Clara picks up on is that it seems like cancer is something that is prevalent enough here that they have created a syntax of evasion where you can say things like it was a bad time, or, you know, the doctors couldn't do anything. And you can tell that, like, you can see those code phrases in play that but this is the kind of thing that there needed to be a lot of that to create that kind of syntax. You don't make that kind of evasion language for one person.
Yeah.
That she knew it, and she knows Annette. I mean, Annette's down in Las Vegas right now. She's surprised she's not back, frankly. But I guess, you know, when you don't have anyone to go home to, poor dear, I guess you just want to spend as much time away from it as you can. She'll come home when she's ready to be in the house again. And
No,
it's
that
just
makes sense.
nasty, rotten, toxic, small town gossip bullshit.
Claire's trying to milk it for all it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
See if, well, was there anybody else who started coming around, you know, when he was really sick or after he passed, you know?
And it's all unfounded. It's just this person, that person, this person, that person. And, you know, and we prayed for her. And, you know, there's some references to church and church services and spending time around people. And it's church not only as a form of religion, but also as a major component of the social structure in the town. You know, like, this seems to be a fairly single denomination. Like, this is it's very heavily primarily Mormon. So I mean, there really doesn't seem to be a lot of other churches around. And you didn't see any other ones. And unlike, you know, like I've said, Pittsburgh is a town with a church on almost every corner. So you kind of, there was definitely like, okay, so there's, you know, the Mormon church or the Mormon temple, and where's the Episcopal, where's the Baptist, where's the Presbyterian, where's the Lutherans? And the answer is there doesn't seem to be another church here. So it seems to be Mormon or bust. But the thing that you're actually going to have to roll to get more out of is that she makes a very subtle comment about, she says something like, and she tried everything. And it is in that same, like, syntax of evasion. I love that phrase. I just came up with it and I love it. And where that means something. And you think that maybe that something might be the lead, aside from just getting a basic understanding of the town. Like, you've got a couple of names, you recognize some names, you could probably have a, you know, you're like 3 or 4 women's groups away from getting a pretty good sense of how the movers and shakers in the town are.
Cool.
You know, you if you can find another couple of people to talk to, you can probably also direct Matthew at some of the local businessmen, because as much as Matthew says, I'm not a socializer, when you can get him to talk about business with someone, he gets pretty slick. So
yeah,
you just have to figure out a way to get Matthew to talk business without going, oh, I'm the generational heir of a massive Pittsburgh steel empire, you know. So essentially you've got to convince him to act like the fucking jabroni that he met at the first
Frankie.
Yeah, you got to teach him. He has to pretend to be Frankie, which will involve a great deal of eating of livers and crows.
So she tried everything comment. The first attempt that Clara makes to get more information is doing that slight head tilt and the looking more interested and leaving silence for the no, go on, because humans have a tendency to want to fill silences. So if she will clarify unprompted with a proper amount of silence in the conversation and a clearly very, very rapt listener, That's the first attempt.
Do you think that this is influence other or read a person?
I think it's influence other because Claire's trying to get her to speak more.
Okay, yeah, then roll plus charisma.
Yep. Oh, 11. And I know my charisma's high. I don't think it's that high. 14.
I don't think it's plus 4.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. She does what you ask, but yeah, okay. There's clearly no compensation being demanded here, so it looks like she might either regret it later or they're going to have complications from this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Sorry, everybody. Alon had just informed us that he had to go handle some real life stuff.
Yep.
So we will give him the best, but we will wait for the cameras to get fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Curtis. Thank you, Curtis.
Yeah. Yeah.
We really would be lost without Curtis.
Oh,
He's
we
such a
would.
good being.
It'd be so terrible.
Yeah, it was I know y'all are waiting to find out what the hell she did everything is, and I promise you'll find out before we go. But one of the things that like I looked up how to stream when we first started talking about this because I thought that I was going to have to figure out how to stream everything myself. Like I thought I was going to figure out how to have to use streaming software and everything else. And I was sitting down to write the like, oops, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do this stream thing that you guys invited me to because I don't have the computer or the technical knowledge to handle actually setting up the stream. And it's like, I had that email sitting in my drafts when Curtis was like, what's up, buddy? I'm the streamer dude, and I'm going to do everything that you don't know how to do. All you have to do is show up and run your game over Zoom. Is that cool? And I was like, bless you, sir. Bless you.
Yeah.
So because I am zooming on one whole toaster with a screen.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that I could install OBS, let alone actually make it run with 1/10 of the capability that Curtis makes it do. So yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we are all settled.
Mm-hmm.
So there is apparently you get a sense that what this gal is about to bring up is something that she would not normally say. But you have gotten her in full gossip mode. And you know how didn't drink enough coffee tonight, sorry. And you know how hard it is that once you are pouring the 5-gallon bucket of shit that is gossip, that it is very difficult to keep the last 3 cups of filth from falling out of the bottom. And that's essentially what you got her to do. Apparently, some people, and there is a heavy non-implication, there's a heavy implication without being said, that these people are people that are inadequately faithful. Although like the linguistics of church and the linguistics of faith are not native social structures to the Van Horsts, like at this level. So it's like, you know how to socialize after a church service, you know what to do for Christmas, you know what to do for Easter, you know what to do for like Thanksgiving, you know how to do everything for all the funerals. But this, like the actual like nitty gritty of faithful people interacting with each other, that's fairly alien. But some people, when they get desperate, there's a lady in town that can sometimes ease the passing, or can take something bad and turn it into something maybe a little bit better. And it's clearly vague, and clearly this lady is far too upright to engage with such terrible things. But when people get desperate, there is apparently someone here who is who is able and willing to do something that Lisa disapproves of, that she doesn't know enough about, but it is a thing. It is enough that Lisa is kind of complaining about it. You're muted, Erica.
Just realized, yep.
It's okay.
That sounds awful. While we're here, should we avoid somebody? Who is she?
If you don't get sick, you're not going to see her. Don't worry. She keeps to herself.
All right, well, that's good. No plans on getting sick. So what places do you recommend? Is there, you're Mormons. You don't drink here, do you?
No, we don't. And she launches into the customer service, yes, we're a dry town speech. That clearly you're not the first person that she's had to be like, yes, there's no alcohol available for sale in this town. But Las Vegas is really only a couple hours away. And that kind of like, I'm not sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sorry we live in a dry town. I am fully in support of a dry town, but if you want to be a rapacious sinner, then you may feel free to go somewhere else and consume. But she does make a mild comment, and it doesn't seem that's directed, not like I have seen something I disapprove of, but she does say that because it is a dry town, that the sheriff does tend to take an exceedingly dim view on people who do come into town drunk, especially ones that start trouble.
Oh, of course.
But once again, this all feels like she's running off of her customer service script still, so it's not targeted.
You have to forgive me. We're from Vegas, so we really wanted to come up. Annette talked really beautifully of this town. What do you go and do at night? Is there a good restaurant?
Well, there's a couple. There's a decent. There is a what she calls a good restaurant, which is called The Nest. And that is what passes. I mean, like in Van Horst Ease, it's what passes for a good restaurant. But it's kind of for what it sounds like, it's like a steakhouse.
Okay.
It's the place where you can get a nice big steak and things like that. Although how compelling a steakhouse is going to be without a bottle of red wine in this fucking town is up in the air. And there's also a couple of diners, of course. It seems like there is enough money in the town that there needed to be a proper good sit down, forks on the left, spoons on the right dinner, like a place to eat. And it does enough business to be fine, but a majority of the people eat, if they're eating out, they're eating at a diner.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of diners on Main Street. There's another one kind of like on the other side of town that seems to, there's also farms on the other side of town as well, on the other side of the city limits. And so that seems to be the diner that a lot of the laborers and farmhands tend to visit if they're working on that side of town. And the way she says that is, it seems like there's an amount of the population that is internally migrant, in that they'll work this farm for this part of the season, and they'll work this farm for this part of the season, and they'll work this farm, and they're just kind of they're doing 3 or 4 different things throughout the year depending on the season. And of course, then there are land-owning farmers. There's a lot of cotton. Yeah.
You've been so sweet. Thank you. Hopefully I'll get us a good meal once my siblings are awake again.
Oh, siblings!
Yeah.
And like you can watch an entire series of assumptions like have to get reset. But she's also seems to be happy,
Mm-hmm.
which probably means that she's happy that there isn't some sort of a scandal at her hotel.
Of course.
Something that might besmirch her reputation. Like, siblings fucking each other.
Yeah. Okay.
That'd be terrible. Yeah.
So thank you for all the recommendations, and Clara slides a $5 across, so it's not the extraction.
She stares at you like in this like, what? She says, do you need me to run to the store for you? Like
No.
she does, like she pushes it back, and it seems, Clara, that you don't pay people for information here. Like, yeah,
Clara was tipping her like in her head, like a concierge making restaurant recommendations.
Yeah, it does make sense to you, but it's also one of those. It's like you're like, I have learned this in a least destructive way possible.
Okay.
But it looks like tipping here, or at least tipping people that aren't used to being tipped, might be a weird thing.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Stop doing that. Well, you're sweet. Sorry, we're still getting too used to not being in the city. Thank you.
Oh yeah, Las Vegas. Everybody's out to make $1. We're just here trying to provide something that people need for a good price, and a clean bed and a good shower. You just somewhere clean to sleep and somewhere to get that clean. It's just, everybody really needs that.
Honestly, it's going to be lovely to be away from Vegas for a few days.
It's so loud. It's so loud. Oh my gosh. And bright.
There's something dirty about it. It's nice to come to a place like this.
She is so scandalized. She is so scandalized by the mere concept of Las Vegas. Like, you just, like, Mufasa. Like, that's the vibe. But also, you're fairly certain that if you had 6 months to work on this girl, like, she's too scandalized by it.
Oh, she's super. Yeah, she's heard those stories.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I should go check on my sister, see if she needs anything. So.
Okay.
Sarah gives a friendly wave and toddles back to the rooms.
Okay. Bethany, it's now been a conversation's worth of time since Clara left you there. Are you fully zonked at this point?
I think so. There's been a lot that happened to Bethany in the last 36 hours, let's say. She hasn't slept through any of them.
Yes.
Like,
it's a whole lot.
It's a whole lot. She's been too mad at her siblings to sit around and really think about what she did at the party either.
Yeah. Yeah.
She hasn't had time to contemplate or revel or anything about any of that shit because her siblings were stabbing themselves.
Yes. You did a lot too.
Sure did.
Yeah. You did a sex and then you did a cannibalism.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, she's very asleep.
Okay. It's kind of at that, it's like, I feel like we've kind of hit a point where we're unless Clara wants to wake up Bethany or wait for her to wake up.
I feel like we have hit we made progress tonight. We're all mad at each other, but we got into town, we checked in, I have some base information, and Claire's gonna let Bethany sleep. The only other thing she's gonna poke around about is when church services are.
Okay.
Because that might be a good point to get to go and make nice with people and get some more information.
Yes.
Or if there's a women's group that runs Wednesday nights or something, like That's the only other thing she's kind of looking into while she's downstairs.
Okay. You don't really get a good answer on the women's group, probably because there's an amount of vetting that has to happen before you're really invited to the, the ladies' social. But, also you're not going to be here long enough unless something keeps you here for longer than a day and a half. But
in a dry town, the Van Horst, longer than 24 hours.
Yeah. The dawn of the last day, 24 hours remain. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I also agree that I feel like, with Elon having to go take care of a thing and, Bethany, Bethany's got to lay on the bed about it.
Yeah.
And Clara finishing a conversation. I'm pretty comfortable ending tonight. Like, it didn't end with like a big cliffhangery, armchair grabber, but I'm content with that because it doesn't always have to end with an armchair grabber. Sometimes you can just feel like we got a lot done tonight. Yeah. Let's sweep up the shop and go home.
The armchair grabber is the town is dry.
Yeah. Claire's the only one who knows that.
Fuck the lady in red. The town is dry.
There's nothing else to do.
Wow.
No, the moment Ben said Mormons, I'm like,
does he think we're his?
There's not going to be a bar in this town. We might get lucky to get coffee or tea in this town because maybe they don't bring that for outsiders. But good Mormons don't even drink coffee and tea.
They don't do caffeine.
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, oh, right, Mormons. It's a good thing that she doesn't think we're both Matthew's wife.
Yep.
Yeah. It's, you said you're from Vegas.
Yeah.
None of us were wearing rings. That's why Clara had to go with siblings. Otherwise, she would have been like my brother and sister-in-law, or my husband and sister-in-law. But that's the thing you look at when you're trying to figure out what sort of scandal is coming into your hotel. None of them are wearing wedding rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see now. So in 2 weeks, we're going to do a bunch of really interesting things. We are going to see if the siblings can make up under pressure. We are going to find out about these last desperate hopes that people who are dying of cancer have in St. George in 1957, which I'm sure is going to be a perfectly fine, absolutely legitimate, just it's hospice or something, clearly, right? It'll be fine. And we are also going to meet someone very special. So if you are listening to this, if you are watching this, it's going to be a bit of a barn burner next game, which will be on, and I'm going to open my calendar, will be on June 6th.
Yep.
So, which is, Curtis, the voices in my head tell me that that's actually TTRP Theater's 2-year anniversary. So we're the anniversary show.
That's exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other shows. There is Adam, the otherwise known as the Vampire Interpreter on a lot of social media, is a hauntingly prolific showrunner, and they are doing Vengeance and Valdery, which is a Vampire the Masquerade, a Sabbat game, which is going to be absolutely bananimals, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And they are also doing what is it? Sagittarius. They're doing a I know the words. I know all of the words. I just didn't bring any. Star Trek. Thank you. The voices in my head are super useful today. That's a new group. Oh my gosh, he's in it? Okay. So if you like watching the Vampire Interpreter chew scenery, except this time he's going to chew on a holodeck, watch that, because it's going to be a lot of fun and it's going to be a lot of good. And that's using Modiphius's Star Trek system, which is, I think it's the 2D20, which is everything else they're doing. And that's a really fun system. As Mutant Chronicles, one of my favorite worlds, is in that system too. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff coming. Is there anything else that we need to? Oh, yeah. The game that I will be playing in Downtown Dreaming, a Slay Industries game, will be starting on the 13th of June. That is a very grim cyberpunk game set in a very, 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 very far future. Written originally in the 90s in Scotland, the thematics were heavily influenced by the profound upheavals that Scotland was experiencing in those decades. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. I am playing a 6.5 feet tall, 20 stone heavy, dog skull headed, barely civilized creature. And so he's going to be fun. And yeah. Also, please, if you're not on the Discord, please join the Discord. And also, there is a TTRP Theater Patreon. If you like what you're doing, if you like what we're doing, if you think this is something worth supporting, and I am of the opinion that it is, please hop on there. You know, $1, $5 a month. It's worth it. And there are people who work really hard and they put lots of hours in, and no one in this field is compensated adequately for the work they do. And we'd really appreciate it if you put some money where your entertainment is and did what you could to get some of those people adequately compensated. I think that's it. Anything else you guys want to say?
No.
Okay. Yep. It was a quiet game, but we got a lot done.
Yep.
I think we've invested in some drama.
Yeah.
I think there's some CDs that are going to pay off here in a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you very much for coming. As always, use your safety mechanics in life and in play. And, when you got to go, you got to go. And that's okay.
Mhm.
So take care of yourself, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.